Hi, I am Tony Russo from On Death Care, and this week we are speaking with Alanna Navin. She is a funeral director who has just completed her second year at ICCFA University. And so we talk about her entire trip. I did an interview with her about a year ago after her first year, and we talked about the benefits of using the ICCFA to improve her career and to help her network with other funeral directors and to just improve her vision for what she can be. And it's a great story. I'm actually not even going to tell it to you. Let her tell it. She tells it better anyway. Before we get to the show, I do want to thank my paid subscribers for their support. I would love it if you became a subscriber at any level, including at the $0 level. You can do that by going to ondeathcare.com and just hitting subscribe. I will send you all the stories that I write, except I write one special thing each week for paid subscribers. Anyway, please visit ondeathcare.com, take a look around, see what you think. And if you're a YouTube type person, we're on YouTube too. You can subscribe to get notifications from YouTube by hitting that little bell. Okay, enough of me. Let's get into it with Alanna Navin. So it has been almost exactly a year since we spoke in real person. Welcome back.
Thanks. Thank you.
And
It's good to be back.
yeah, I'm sure it is, right? Hanging tough. But before we get into everything, everyone hasn't been following your career the way I personally have in a non-stalkery way. Tell us how you got into funeral service and more importantly, how you decided you wanted to try the ICCFA University last year, which is when you went for your first time.
So essentially, I got into funeral service basically by way of my mother. She and her family actually lived in a funeral home when she was younger. And after I graduated from Georgia State University, I was on track to go ahead and start applying to medical schools, taking the MCAT, things of that nature, that portion. I was having a crisis. Basically, one day I was crying to her, is this something that I want to do? Well, I don't know what to do with the rest of my life. And she looked at me and she said, have you considered doing what your grandmother did? And I looked at her and I was thinking to myself, I don't want to work with dead people. That was just my first initial thought.
All right.
So she told me to think about it, told me to pray about it. I told her I would. I started doing some research on Google. This is well before artificial intelligence, all that kind of thing. So just
So you can look for an answer instead of saying, no, that's not even what I asked.
Look for an answer. I was able to dig. And after like some contemplating and just thinking, well, being like around decedents, being around things that are kind of like, I'll just say morbid for lack of better words, I thought to myself, well, to be perfectly fair, I have dissected specimens before. I've been to a few funerals in my lifetime, starting from childhood. It doesn't make me uncomfortable. Let me go ahead and get a part-time job as a funeral assistant to see if I actually would imagine myself working in that type of environment. I started working just as a funeral assistant at one of the local funeral homes in my area at the time. And I was like, dang, I think I've fallen in love with this. So I decided to attend mortuary science school through the Dallas Institute of Funeral Service and work my way to basically complete my apprenticeships, pass the boards for first time, and now I'm here today at Restland Funeral and Cemetery.
What's very cool about your story is that you also kind of moved into management pretty quickly. Like you hit the ground running. And when we spoke last year, you decided to go to ICCFA for something you had no idea about. ICCFA University. So tell me about your process for deciding to go and then getting to go because there was a little bit of a hiccup there.
Essentially, at the time, I was working within my first managerial job as a call center manager at Restland. It was my first job within a leadership position, working and taking care of a team, making sure we're reaching our KPIs, making sure we're reaching certain metrics, but at the same time, still balancing that empathy and sympathy that we need to hold for families while on the phone, because that's their first impression of any funeral home. And so as I was like researching, I was like, okay, I like management, I do enjoy working with a team of people and gathering people to reach a mutual goal, which that goal is serving families, but just serving families with excellence. That's a true goal at the end of the day when it comes to leading in this field. So as I was researching, I was like, I want to expand myself. I always consider myself like a lifelong learner. I have enjoyed school and learning ever since I was a child. I consider myself a pretty curious person. So, as I was researching and just kind of, I logged on to LinkedIn one day and I follow ICCFA. And they had this post about ICCFA University. We have scholarships. I was like,
Mhm.
let me look into that. So I click on the link, look at their different colleges that they have, see how the courses are structured, see how this whole program is structured. And I was like, well, what's the best way to learn something than sometimes in a structured environment? And I had to think to myself, what is one thing that I really don't know about? That would be the cemetery side. As a funeral director at Restland, we touched the cemetery, but not like an intensive way, as if
Mhm.
you were a cemetery, and that's not my wheelhouse. It wasn't my wheelhouse then. It's still not my expertise now, but of course, through that education, I do have a better understanding now. But at the time, I was like, well, I don't know anything about this. Might as well go ahead and apply for the scholarship and see if I can get in. So, essentially, yeah, after applying for the scholarship, like, once receiving the scholarship through, like, a letter of recommendation from my boss at the time, I was able to go to Atlanta, and I got a fantastic educational experience, got a fantastic networking experience, and I can definitely say I've made some dear friends from all over the country, all over the world.
Were you able to apply anything when you got back, or is this just something that gave you a little bit deeper knowledge? What was your post? Because we spoke just not too long after you
Mhm.
came back, like we're speaking now. But what was your last year like as far as pre and post ICCFA University?
Coming back from ICCFA University, I was pretty pumped, and I came back and shared with my boss everything that I learned because she herself is very versed in being a cemeterian. She is like still runs the funeral home and the cemetery as a senior managing partner of operations. So I was able to come back to her just like, well, we could classify ourselves as an arboretum.
Ah.
She was starting to implement like a tree program because we have many trees on Restland's property, beautiful trees, old trees. It really does help with the aesthetic of the cemetery. In the Texas heat, it's very helpful having a couple of trees around to stand under while you're at a graveside. But I was able to come back and and share information, not just with my media team in the call center, but I did give a presentation at town hall about what it means to be an arboretum, the history of arboretums, how we can become an arboretum through a certain certification. I just kind of left it at that, planted that seed. Um, for me, I don't think we pursued the certification to become an arboretum at the time. However, still planting that seed with that appreciation for, the fauna, or excuse me, the flora that we have within the
Right.
cemetery, all the beautiful trees, all the beautiful plants that we have, and how to maintain it. So when families do come, it's a place of peace. It's also a place of beauty. So ultimately, at the end of the day, I think with the education I received from my first year at ICCFA University, I was able to come back and myself have a better appreciation when it comes to cemeteries, have a better appreciation when it comes to the safety of the cemetery crew, what my part as a funeral director means to ensure that safety, how to keep families safe when they're attending a graveside, how a graveside should be set up. Even when it comes to the personalization at the graveside, instead of just a den and chairs, you could have a
Mhm.
memory table. You could have like a couple little snacks out while people, like before they disperse, they could get like a piece of like grandma's favorite pie after the service or something like that.
Mhm.
So it was definitely pulling everything together in the sense of serving families in a way that was bespoke, unique, but at the same time maintaining the safety and the structure of the cemetery. Yeah, I think for me, I was able to educate myself with a balance of both.
How long did it take to become an arboretum, and where are you guys in that process? Did you end up going ahead with it?
Mhm. From my research and understanding, it doesn't take that long to become an arboretum. They have different levels of being an arboretum. Like level 1, you can have 20, 25 trees or different species of those trees.
Mm,
Level 2 to 3, you have several dozen, 3 or 4, several hundred of different types of species and things like that. I can't quite remember the exact levels,
mhm.
but from my understanding, it is more so just it's taking the time to go out there, tag all of your trees, tag all of the types of different species that you have there, log them, check their health, and you could just essentially register with
I
the
see.
organization and just say we're a certified arboretum. I think it's important to plant seeds like that because while they may not take root right now, they could take root in the future.
Mhm. Absolutely. Then deciding to go this year, you took an entirely different tack. So tell me about, again, the application process, because as I understand it, you were able to get a scholarship again this year, which is why you were able to
Mhm.
go this year. How did you do the course selection part? And was the course selection part of your ability to get the scholarship?
Basically, when it comes to ICCFA, you choose to become a graduate. You choose 4 courses over the course of 4 years. So each year should be a different course. Like for me, I wasn't really going to go back to the College of Cemetery and Grounds
Mm,
Management, but I wanted to educate myself and expand my understanding when it comes to something that I'm currently in right now, funeral management. I became the assistant funeral manager at Restland in November. It's still pretty fresh for me, so at
wow.
this time, I'm still getting, like, my teeth, like, really sinking in to the meat and
Mhm.
potatoes of what it means to be on this side of management, to be managing, funeral directors, to be also managing concerns or complaints from families, what it means to be more front facing instead of being a call center, be front facing, like physically speaking,
Right.
in front of client families. And but how at the same time do we provide excellent services? How do we personalize those services? What do you do when it comes to budget concerns and things like that? So for
Mhm.
me, I was like, this is a course I'm definitely gonna have to take this year. That's a
Right.
decision I definitely made on my own. So I was like, okay, I'm still figuring things out. So to help me fast track figuring those things out, I should give myself a little bit of an education. So I, I told my boss I'm going to apply for this scholarship. If I get it again, I'll take PTO and I'll go. She said, okay. She wrote me a lot of recommendation, got the scholarship, and went to back to Atlanta.
Tell me about getting your promotion real quick before we go forward. What
Mhm,
was that like? Was it something that they approached you about? Was there an open position
mhm.
that you applied for? How did it work?
Good question. So essentially, I was having a one on one with my boss at the time, and she looked at me at that one on one and said, "This, this is the end of the line. Being the call center manager, if you want to get in my position in the future, the position that you're in now is not going to lead you to it. It's not exactly that easy path." What she said is basically like, "This is a dead end."
Mhm.
So I was
As
like, "Oh
far as you
dang,
can
what am I
go.
supposed to do?"
Yeah.
Exactly. So she said, if in the future, if there ever comes a position open for an assistant funeral manager, she asked me, do you want to take it? And I told her, yes, absolutely. I want to take it. I don't want this to be it. I want to
Mhm.
keep growing. I want to get into her position in the future. I want to get in her position in the future and beyond. She said, okay, well, we'll see how long that takes. But I know that you're interested. Let's just keep trucking forward as we're doing. The funny part of that conversation is that she came back to me the next week. She said, "Well, we have a position." I was like, "Wait a second, what?" Essentially, the other assistant funeral manager, she was like kind of in a different phase of her life, looking at strengths and weaknesses. She wants to stay in funeral service. She has a passion for serving families and providing excellence. She just wanted to start serving people in a slightly different capacity than being like an assistant funeral manager. My position was proposed to her. She said, "Yeah, I would be interested in it because it would be a source of learning, a source of growth for her."
Mhm.
And we had to have kind of like interviews and several meetings with each other, with our respective managers. We essentially made the switch. She took my position in the call center as manager. I took her position in the funeral home as assistant manager.
And that
And
sounds
that's how it happened.
it sounds like an hours switch, though. Was it the call center, were there more predictable hours?
Yeah, there was a little bit more predictability in the call center to an extent. But with being the call center, I would have to say it does have its own set of challenges because you're not just working with families, you're working with other departments. You have to be a jack of all trades and master of none. So, which is a little bit of a difficulty when you're kind of like in a focus expertise, if that makes sense.
Mhm. And, what were some of your big takeaways going to ICCFA University this year? Was it something you were better prepared for? Did you, like, say,
Mhm.
"Alright, well, I want to do this, that, and the other thing"? How did your second experience compare with your first?
My second experience was fantastic, but I would have to say, with every year at ICCFA University, you really do not know what you're going to take away, and you really do not know how it's going to affect you. And that's not a bad thing because it's kind
Mm,
of like
it's adventure.
it's going to be a surprise. It's an adventure. It's a
Yeah.
box of chocolates. It's kind of random, and random in the sense is like you really do not know what you're going to take away from it for sure. And so for me, like, of course, I knew what to expect in the sense of like, I come to Atlanta, I land in Atlanta, get in my Uber, go to the hotel, I check in, meet some old classmates from last year. What are you going to be doing this year? Blah, blah, blah. But as soon as you sit down for the first session, they give you, of course, an overview of your next several days. But when you actually get into those classes, when you get into those sessions, you're going to be taking away all types of things. Some people will take away certain things, some people take away other things, and you don't know how it's going to affect you or affect your way of thinking, which could challenge your way of thinking or could make you think, "Oh, I don't want to do that, but I'll take this piece of advice."
And so what was your experience this year like? Go ahead.
So, I would have to say my experience this year was very positive overall. I would have to say that my experience this year did definitely challenge my perspective when it comes to managing a funeral. Because us being in the position for 7, 8 months,
Mhm.
definitely I thought I had somewhat of a preconceived notion of like managing a funeral.
Right.
But coming here, it definitely expanded my view of what we could do as a funeral, what we could do as a common location of a funeral and cemetery. To me and for me, my biggest takeaway was definitely how to ensure the longevity of your business. That would be to really get involved in the community, not just as an individual, but as an organization. And so that was the biggest takeaway I took. And that is something that I'm working with the other leadership of the funeral to actively pursue when it comes to volunteering on volunteer days, when it comes to joining certain organizations and saying, "This is a company that I represent." It could be just doing a senior day or a workshop for senior citizens at a
Mm,
nursing home. It could be coming to a children's school and just be like, "Hey, kids, do you want to be a funeral director in the future?
right.
For career day or something like that."
Yeah.
Probably a lot of them would be like, I don't want to do that, but at least you're getting yourself out there. When it comes to, providing funds for like kids' backpacks or school supplies, there's just so many other ways we can tell people we are here, not just for the saddest day of your life. We can be here for any other day of your life because death is a part of life. But that doesn't mean we just have to be there at one part. We can be there for every step of the way because that's what we should be. We should be part of this community. We should be part of the fabric.
That's absolutely fantastic. And when, I mean, I know you're just back, and a lot of times, you come back with your head on fire, and then
Mhm,
you're like, "Okay, well, I also have to do my regular job." Was that part of the thing? You got a sense of how much more can be done given even though you're
mhm.
already doing a bunch?
Yes. So, for me, it was a really good litmus test to
Huh.
just look at, like, what we are doing to further our presence in the community, and I definitely had to sit down with a couple of my team members and say, "There is so, so much more that we could be doing." But we could do it with even more excellence. And so for me, you just can't do everything at once at one time. Oh, we're gonna do the school backpacks, we're gonna do the senior citizen thing, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that. We have to focus and we're making plans to focus on one particular task and grow from there.
What do you see for next year? Do you feel like next year is something do you have your eye on going again next year? Is this something that you're gonna do as often as you can? Are you gonna go all 4 years? Is
I definitely do wanna go all 4 years. Next year, there's a couple of colleges that I'm definitely interested in. One would be the College of Technology. I hear a lot of fantastic things about that college and the subsequent courses, especially as we're moving into the age of artificial intelligence, as we're moving into more sophisticated technology, like on our smartphones. How can we serve families in that way? Recently, I performed a cremation for a lady who lost her baby. Unfortunately, she's like, "Can I just do this all through text?" And I said, "Okay, we can do that." She didn't wanna talk to anyone,
Mm.
because she was grieving that heavy. She's like, I don't have the strength in me to actually get on the phone and talk to someone. Can I just please text you everything?" And I told her, "That's perfectly fine. We can do this all through text. We can do this all through DocuSign. There's nothing wrong with that. There's just a couple of caveats that I just need you to be aware of, such as identification measures, legal measures, things like that."
That's fantastic, and you were already ready for that, but it also
Mhm.
opened your eyes that there's so much more out there technology-wise.
Definitely. Definitely, and, no, of course, we there's always gonna be that space to that touch and feel aspect of what we do. Getting in front of family, showing them the casket selection room or their urn selection, showing them, like, a memory portrait or, memorial thumbprint jewelry. There's always gonna be that touch and feel aspect, but for a certain subsect of the population that could be grieving and grieving in a way that they don't wanna be physically present, but they wanna take care of things in a certain way, we still have to be ready for those families. We don't want to ostracize them or make them feel like, I guess you really don't love your loved one because you don't want to be here for them. We don't want to ostracize them. But the best way to bridge that gap would be through technology. So I think next year, I'm definitely interested in taking that course, but I'll look at the other courses, see if like, maybe I should take that one instead.
Excellent. And that is pretty much all I have for you, unless you have something else for me. Is there something I should have asked and didn't, or a story you wanted to tell that I didn't give you the chance to, anything like that?
I say one story to tell would be, so I met a young lady, her name is Gary Richardson. We plopped down, sat next to each other, we had our name tags next to each other, we spent, we had chit-chat here and there, but spent the entire time next to each other during this, course. And so on the very last day, she was, texting the leaders of one of our organization that were part of Continuing Vision. So she was contacting, Jeff Holcomb of Continuing Vision, just texting, like, back and forth. She's texting him, "Oh, I'm at ICCFA University this year." And Jeff is like, "Alana's actually at ICCF University this year. She's, one of the other mentors that we have in our Continuing the Vision program." She turned and looked at me. She's like, "Are you part of Continuing Vision?" I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "Girl, we've been sitting next to each other for the entire week, and we did not recognize each other." But she lives up in the Northeast. I'm living in Texas, and I'm thinking to myself, "Oh, yeah, she's part of the, administration team." I was like, "You're Carrie of the administration team. I'm so sorry. I didn't recognize you." So we exchanged information and cool young lady. She's fantastic. Also super passionate about serving families and just providing beautiful services to them and leading a team and making sure families are comfortable and her team is okay. So the fact that we're part of the same organization but not realize it until the very last day is just so funny to me.
It is.
So shout out to Carrie Richardson. Have not forgotten about you.
And kind of along those lines, you mentioned this last time and you mentioned it earlier in the conversation. So I'd like to you talked about the networking opportunities, just all the people you get to meet. Have you,
Mhm.
because you were in touch with some of your fellow students over the course of the year then?
Mhm. Yes, absolutely. We actually, had our group chat going, and every time, like, they would see, like, an announcement, they congratulate me on one of the articles I had published in the Mentor last year. We would congratulate each other if we see things on, like, LinkedIn or even Facebook.
Hmm.
So it's just a supportive group of professionals that I think it's fantastic to keep in touch with.
All right. Well, thank you very much for your time.
Well, thank you so much for having me back, Tony. I
Oh, yeah.
appreciate this conversation.
We'll talk to you in another year.
Yeah, I'll see you next year.
It's one of my favorite things to do is to follow someone's career like this. So it's been really nice of Alanna to kind of share her journey with us along her experience with the ICCFA University. I hope you got a lot out of it. I think that's a great thing. I've never spoken with anyone who has anything but the best things to say about their experience at the ICCFA University. And that will do us for this time. This has been an On Death Care production. It was written and edited by me, Tony Russo. Please, please, please consider subscribing by going to ondeathcare.com to get everything that I make, including more videos and podcasts and written stories and deeply reported stories and quick hit stories and all the fun stuff. You can find it on deathcare.com and hit the subscribe button. If you would like to just subscribe to the podcast, do it on the podcatcher you're listening on now. Just find the show, hit subscribe, and you'll be updated whenever I put out a show. I put out a show every Tuesday on the news, and then I do these occasional interview shows, and I hope you're enjoying them. Finally, and once again, thanks to my paid subscribers for keeping the lights on and keeping me moving forward. I'm having an absolute blast, and I hope that you are enjoying what I'm putting out there. So that'll do it for this time, and we will check in with you next time.